My name's Andrew, and today I'm going to expose the global money cartel in about 20 minutes. This is going to be the first of a 4-part series where I explain to you that no matter how hard you work or how many grueling hours you put in, you will likely stay more or less stuck where you are unless you understand that the whole money system is rigged against you. But once you understand exactly how this system is rigged against you and how you can position yourself instead to take advantage of it, then can you even imagine how prosperous you could become? I mean, it would be like having the cheat codes to a video game. While everyone else is slugging away, completing the levels the hard way, you spoke to the dev and he told you that on level 7 there's a secret portal which gives you access to special powers, which allows you to complete the levels effortlessly. Because once you understand how the global money cartel rigs the system against you and how you can take advantage of it instead, you're going to have such an advantage over everybody else. All your friends and family are going to wonder how you made such a rapid financial change in your life. But even if you have the cheat codes, you still have to put in some work. I'm not promising you it's going to be a walk in the park. I will always keep it real and tell you the truth. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, you probably know that the Federal Reserve prints money, right? But do you understand exactly how and why this is happening? Do you understand how it's directly holding you back in your everyday life? And do you understand how you can take advantage of this instead of being a victim of it? I will explain. Let us begin with how the Federal Reserve prints money. First of all, they do not literally print money. Only the Treasury prints money. But the Treasury prints money in response to the Fed's request to do so. It then gives this money to the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve then goes ahead and buys US Treasury bonds and other mortgage-backed securities from banks and other financial institutions on the open market. So the Federal Reserve is essentially buying debt with money the Treasury printed and gave to them. This debt has interest, which means that every single bank and institution who sold the bond to the Federal Reserve has to ultimately pay back more money than what the Federal Reserve bought the bond for. In the short term, these banks and institutions make money by receiving money for selling the bond. This is called quantitative easing, which increases the overall money supply in the economy. But when it's time to pay these bonds back, how can they pay back more money than they already have? The answer is they don't have the money to pay. So what do? They sell bonds to borrow more money again. And the cycle continues with more and more money being printed to purchase these bonds and more money being injected into the economy, which means that the value of the currency goes down because by basic supply and demand, when the supply goes up, the price goes down. And when that happens, your purchasing power goes to the floor. In the last 40 years, the purchasing power of the dollar has decreased by about 250%, meaning that $1 40 years ago would equal to $3.50 today. Of course, average income has increased too, but that is only marginally kept up with inflation. Your purchasing power today is still less than it was before, and this is largely because of the strength of the US economy that it was able to do this. But in other places with weaker economies, inflation totally outran average income. When this happens, it's called hyperinflation, and the effects of this can be disastrous. We have seen this happen before in Zimbabwe during 2007 and 2008, where for example the average cost of bread could have been a few dollars in the morning and then 10 times that amount by the same in the evening. Or in the German Weimar Republic during 1921 and 1923, where sometimes people needed wheelbarrows of cash to buy basic groceries. In Hungary during 1945 and 1946, where people's life savings became worthless almost overnight. And in Yugoslavia during 1992 and 1994, where people started getting paid in goods rather than cash because cash lost its value so fast. You get the point. Now, you may think, well, of course, those weaker currencies collapsed. They had unstable governments and made poor financial decisions. Or the US dollar as a reserve currency will never collapse. They will just print more or less money to control the inflation, right? And you are correct. However, with BRICS, forming alliances to do trade without the US dollar, with China, Iran and Saudi agreeing to trade in renminbi and other currencies, and with Brazil and China agreeing to trade in reals and renminbi. Huge world economies moving away from the US dollar, which has dominated global trade for decades. Could this signal the beginning of the end of the US dollar supremacy? What do these countries understand about the world economy that the US and the rest of us don't? Are they foreseeing the collapse of the US dollar and moving away from it? Well, history shows us that even the strongest economies eventually collapse when people least expect it. Here we can see a list of the last 6 global reserve currencies. As you can see, each one lasted about 100 years before they collapsed. It's becoming a pattern now. And although history doesn't repeat itself, it does rhyme. Each time these mighty powers establish their currency as the global reserve currency that everyone used for everything, just like people today use the US dollar. At the time, nobody thought that those currencies would collapse, but they did. Some wars happened, governments made mistakes, the economy shifted, and the currencies collapsed, so something else could take its place. You know the saying, people always sleepwalk into war? Well, people also sleepwalk into the global reserve currency collapse. We are seeing the signs right now with huge economies moving away from the US dollar. We are seeing potential for huge instability with wars in Ukraine and the Middle East. And we are just around the 100-year mark of the US dollar becoming the world's reserve currency. The elites already foresee this currency collapse coming. So, you know what they are doing? They are buying crypto. Yes, institutions such as BlackRock and other big governments are buying up billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. I will get more into why and how they are doing this in part 2 of this series, but what you need to know today is that the current fiat system, as we know, will come to an end sooner than later. And if you are not positioning yourself to take advantage of this change, then you are positioning yourself for some hard years ahead of you. Because you are either growing in this life or you're withering away, no in between. So the question is, how do you position yourself to take advantage of this impending fiat system currency collapse? Let me give you a 3-step plan you can start following today. So, step 1. Understand that all of the money you are currently earning in any currency will eventually cease to have any value. So, any and all extra money should be put into certain cryptocurrencies and other assets which will not lose their value, even when the fiat system collapses. The beauty of this is that in most places you can easily convert back and forth from these assets into fiat, so that you can still spend money to live and do other things in the meanwhile. Step 2. Increase your income. While we are still operating inside of this monetary system, you have to maximize your earnings. If you're working a job, I'm not saying to quit. It can still be very profitable, but ultimately, you're still trading your time for money. So you need to spend every spare second looking for alternative or additional sources of income, especially during the current scenario. You have really no time to waste. Remember, people sleepwalk into a global reserve currency collapse when they least expect it. And if you do not have a nice stash of assets which will not lose their value tucked away in preparation for this, then you and your loved ones are going to struggle a lot. How I got rich was with crypto investing, and if you follow my channel you will learn all about how you can also become profitable with this money making avenue. But it's not the only avenue. There are endless possibilities. You just need to pick one that suits you, and with the internet you can learn all about anything. Then it just comes down to your execution and dedication. There's really no excuse here. You have all the tools. Step 3. You need to keep educating yourself about how the monetary system is rigged against you and stay up to date with the latest news. Do you like being able to think for yourself? Do you like understanding things and being able to predict when things will happen? And the thing is, you don't have to be a mega expert to predict when things will happen in the global monetary systems. All the clues are very obvious in the news, but the sad truth is that 99% of people are just sleepwalking through life and they don't pay any attention. I would like to hope that if you're following me, you are someone who's alert, awake, and ready to learn. I mean, It's your entire financial future on the line. I would say this is pretty important stuff, right? Imagine if you knew weeks or months in advance when the global reserve currency was going to collapse. And imagine if you would already been preparing for this moment months and years ahead as well. You would not be worrying at all for yourself or for your loved ones. Their futures would be secured. While everybody else is panicking, you would be safe and assured. And hey, even if you aren't yet educated enough to fully understand how the monetary system will collapse, at the very least, you take my advice, become rich and provide a dream life for all your loved ones, which is what you wanted to do anyways, right? And you would also have your money in assets that only you control and which will not lose their inherent value the moment disaster strikes. There's literally no downside to this plan, only upside. Now, there's one more thing that you need to worry about, which I will talk about in the next part of this series. Remember, I told you that institutions such as BlackRock and big governments, aka the global money cartel, are buying billions of dollars worth of crypto. Why are they doing that? Well, one of the reasons is that they are transferring assets in preparation for this collapse of the global monetary system. But they have another reason, which is far more sinister. It's not enough for them to save themselves. They also want to ensure everyone else suffers. I will show you exactly how and why they are planning this and how you can beat them at their own game in the next part of this series. Stay tuned and stay strong. The global money cartel will not defeat us.